Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Hello and welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. This is our off-air podcast that we do on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you ever want to catch it live going down, you can always hit us up around 10:30 on the Miguel and Holly or the Hits 961 Facebook page or the Miguel and Holly YouTube channel. Also on Facebook, we also have the Miguel and Holly fam/Platypus Posse Facebook group.
Yeah, you should join. All you do is in Facebook, you search for Platypus Posse. That's the best way to do it. You find it and click join. And we have discussions about, you can start discussions about stuff you might have heard on the podcast or on the show or whatever it is about that whole thing. Like-minded people, I guess.
Absolutely. So hit us up and also take our podcast with you and spread the word this summer. If you're going on vacation, Miguel and Holly Uncensored, Miguel and Holly full show, because I know you be waking up late in the summertime and you ain't listening live, but that's okay because you can take us with you wherever you're going on vacation this summer and listen to the slew of Miguel and Holly podcast. So one of the things that that we are very big into, but I feel like Holly is the spearheader of the steering committee for it on our show and podcast.
Yes.
We talk about mental health a lot.
That we do. I believe it is super important. And it really, in like 2019, 2020 is when I really dug deep into it. And it is just so important to talk about all aspects of our mental health because it only helps us become more compassionate and empathetic towards each other.
And I think also with that, mental health is a big component of our show. And also for me, reaching back to those that are younger than us and pulling them up and putting a spotlight on them and giving them a platform to be able to talk about the issues affecting younger people. Because let's face it, more than likely not, outside of the couple people that I know watch on YouTube, most people that listen to this show are probably 25 plus, you know? And for Holly and I, who are now in our 30s and 40s, and Kelvin, who just turned 30 last year, who's about to turn 31.
Right. Birthday coming up.
You lose touch a little bit just because of life on what's happening with people that age. And so I feel like it's so easy for us to, make snap judgments on Gen Z and like the issues they bring up. Sometimes we got to put them in their place when they come for millennials. Okay.
I know that's
They
right.
really
On
be coming
TikTok.
all the time.
They be coming hard. So I say all that, both of these things to say that we have a special guest on the show, on the podcast today. And this is a young gentleman that I met last year. And this isn't something that we normally do. We just don't bring people that we meet out in the streets and bring them on the podcast. But I was super impressed because last year, around this time, I was doing a live broadcast at a pizza place. And this young gentleman walks up to me and looks me in my eye, shakes my hand very confidently. And he's like, "Hi, this is my name. I'm in college and I want to start a podcast." And I was like, okay. Because let's be honest, most people that are in high school or college, when they talk to us about wanting to do this career, they're like, "Hey, my name is Michael and I'm really interested." And I'm like, okay, first off, we need to work on your delivery and your presence. You got to
hunch.
Right. You got to like put them shoulders back. I need you to talk with me with some confidence.
Say it with your chest.
Yes, with your whole ass chest. So that's why I wanted to bring Braxton on, who we met last year at Will's Pizza. Braxton, welcome to the podcast.
How you doing, y'all? It's a pleasure.
Wonderful.
Good.
Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today on the podcast. And I really wanted to give you your kudos because I was super impressed with how confident you were. But let's sort of like go through the basics first of like, what school are you going to right now?
I'm currently going to be attending UNC Wilmington in the fall, transferring from UNC Charlotte.
Fun. I just came back from Wilmington. Really great
Beautiful.
spot.
Ricefield Beach is where it's at.
That's awesome. And so what are you majoring in?
Psychology.
Oh, see, this is perfect.
I know. I love that.
Right.
I'm a little jealous, honestly. Like, I just feel like that's got to be so fascinating. And you must like love the study of it.
It's people and how they kind of function. It's everything that you would kind of need to kind of understand everybody and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Very foundational major.
Now, what I find so fascinating, Braxton, is that, you're in school. And what year are you going to be this year?
A junior.
A junior. Okay, so you're transferring to UN Wilmington and majoring in psychology, wanting to start a podcast, but then you also are in sports as well.
Yeah, Division I track and field.
Division I track and
Ooh.
field. So how does all of that work right now? Like, what is it like for an athlete and mental health? Because I know, like, on our show, we've been trying to promote making mental health a thing that is okay to talk about and to be comfortable with saying, hey, I can't come to work today because I need a mental health day. Whereas when Holly and I started, there was no thing as a mental health day.
Yeah.
Hey,
What was mental health?
right.
I still don't take those days.
Well, no.
But we
no,
encourage you to.
we don't.
I know that's right.
It's a difficult
I know that's right.
process to let that go.
100%. But what is it like as an athlete dealing with, or dealing with mental health and in that balance?
I would say it's very interesting. As kind of athletes, we're kind of looked at as kind of the gold standard of, what a student should be. We're supposed to strive for excellence on and off the court, on and off the field. And I would say it's a very interesting position to be in, just for a lot of different reasons. As athletes, we're human too. And I feel like a lot of times people forget that. And, you're expected to be on performing 100% of the time. And when you're not, it's kind of this question. I mean, you kind of look at either Kyrie Irving, Simone Biles, people that have kind of taken steps back from their sport to kind of focus on their mental health, because if your mind's not right, you're not right. If you're not able to, feel good or want to get up in the mornings, and performing is kind of secondary. You got to kind of take care of yourself before you can put the team on your back, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Because there is such a strong link, and I don't know if you can speak on this or not, but like there's such a strong link between your mind and your physical body. And so we saw it very well with Simone Biles and what happened. Was that last year?
A couple years back, I think it was 2 or 3 years.
Was it the last Olympics or was it
Maybe
something else?
No, I don't know. I don't remember, but you know what I'm talking about when I say
Yeah.
when Miles decided to step down. Because your mind and the health of your mind truly does impact your physical body and what you can and can't do. So like the mental health field in athletics should, I think, probably be bigger than it is, more talked about than it is.
Yeah. It's definitely not as big as it should be. And there's still like a lot of work that kind of needs to be done just to kind of demystify like the stigma behind mental health. Because I mean, realistically, if somebody comes into you and says like, I have mental health issues, you're going to kind of look at them kind of like get back almost. They're not going to treat you the same as if you were, presenting to kind of be 100% fine all the time.
Right.
So
It's such a strange cycle for me when it comes to depression, and I'm assuming athletes go through this too. But for me, when I was deep in my depression, I was constantly being told like, you need a hobby, you need to go outside, you need to go work out. And what people don't understand is like, I want to lay on that couch.
When you're depressed, that's not what you want to do.
Like, I don't want to. I understand that it's going to make me feel better, but the act of me getting up to go sweat and work out, I think that's the hardest part.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem crazy. And it's interesting you say that there's still a stigma. And I would say for the other thing that popped into the top of my head, and I know we're talking about athletes right now, but I would also say law enforcement. Yeah. Only because my brother is a police officer, and so I have just a tiny sliver of insight in that field. But in the field of athletics, in the field of law enforcement, if you do come forward and say, I can't perform my job today, whether that be playing football in front of a huge stadium or, doing your rounds or whatever, or going on a ride along, whatever, people are like, everyone is quick to want to help with mental health, put on a green ribbon, do a walk. But then in the day-to-day, when they're like, I am feeling messed up, everyone's like, whoa, because you made a commitment, and that's cute, but we really need you actually.
Yeah.
Like they want to champion it for others, but then it's like when you're face to face with it, either with yourself or with someone like that, you're a manager of or whatever, it's almost like, could you have this crisis later? And that's the part that I feel like we don't talk about enough, where people say they want to champion mental health, but it it can be uncomfortable and also what is the word I'm looking for? Inconvenient.
Inconvenient. Yes. Right. Have you felt that in your college athletic career?
Yeah, to kind of say the least. That's part of the reason why I entered the transfer portal. Yeah, I've struggled with mental health on and off for these past couple of years, just due to various different reasons, but mainly just like the COVID pandemic and like the isolation and all that stuff. It just kind of messes with your head. And like you kind of said, support for mental health is more or less kind of performative nowadays, and unfortunately so.
Yeah.
Like it's all fine and dandy, they care about it when it's something extreme, like when there's somebody on the news or there's a statistic or an athlete just, committed suicide. But in the day to day, it's kind of treated as almost like a burden. And like you almost get forced into being like a pariah just because you are going through something at the particular time in your life. And as young adults, 18 to 22, is a foundational time in our life. And basically we're trying to figure ourselves out, and we're bound to, bump into walls, bump our head a couple of times and hit, roadblocks. And I feel like it's a natural thing to kind of fluctuate with your mental health. But, I think it's also very important to kind of be able to support people when they hit those challenges, opposed to try to, are you able to be committed? This is a commitment, and all that stuff.
So what can we do if, we have someone listening right now that has someone who's, in middle school, high school, college, and because I feel like this is where I sometimes struggle with how to help, because like Holly and I always talk about our years coming through radio where, we didn't take days off for mental health when we probably should, or no, we should have taken days off and just let our minds and our hearts and our souls rest a little bit. And we were like, well, we just have to get through it. We just have to get through it. But then there's a little part of me also where, after the pandemic or during the pandemic, when there was that whole like, girl, just quit that job. Fuck that job. Like, if it's good, if they ain't treating you right, quit that job. And I'm like, yes.
Well, maybe let's not be hasty.
Right. Because also, too, there is a little fortitude that you do build up in sort of, biting down and like getting through it. So how can we as adults sort of help you learn the difference between that, if that's even possible for you to answer, because you're in it right now?
Yeah, I would kind of say from one standpoint, just kind of be there for people in general. I mean, it's just a rough time for people just in life, just after the pandemic. So just making sure people kind of feel safe, opening up and talking to you about, whatever it is, not necessarily mental health stuff, but just in general, before it even, gets to a bad spot for somebody. But I would say there's definitely a difference between like the person that doesn't want to come to work today and do work, and then somebody that's actually going through something. So I would kind of say there's a lot of nuance, and it's kind of case by case, and it's not something that I could really speak to for everybody. But if I was to say something to somebody that, coming out of high school or coming out of, college, and they're maybe going through something, you're not alone. Everybody struggles with something. And it's when people, I think this is what I said when we first met at Outside of Wheels last year, when people feel alone, that's when they lash out and they do those things for the attention to kind of be heard or to feel heard. And they do the things that, we don't, deem appropriate in society, if that makes sense.
What was that, or what grade were you in 2020 when the pandemic happened?
I was a senior in high school.
Oh.
Yeah. My senior year got blown to smids. Like I didn't get to go to prom, didn't finish my track and field season. It was
You had that
I was tight. Yeah. They gave us the virtual graduation, everything. They were playing the music, showing pictures. It was
the
wild.
laptop, you said, yay.
Na, 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 all that.
My heart hurts. I'm so sorry.
So now looking back on that, like what was that? Because I feel like we were all just trying to like push together. Because I remember we did a whole like graduation on the air for, the Tampa Bay.
We were trying to do what we could.
Right. We were just trying to acknowledge the fact that you as a senior you're missing these milestones that we all can, point back to and tell stories about. So now that you can look back on that, like, what was it like for you and your classmates at the time?
I would say it was more shock and awe than anything. Like, nobody really knew what was going on at that time. Like, I knew me and a couple of my buddies were like, okay, no school for 2 weeks. 2 weeks turns to almost a year and a half. And then before we're seeing people in classrooms, it's almost been like 2.5 years. And it's kind of like a lot can happen in 2.5 years. And, I would say it was just weird. It was strange. It was definitely a shift and it was definitely a change. I mean, nobody in this lifetime has seen a pandemic, especially one where everything was shut down for as long as it was.
How did it affect your mental health?
I struggled initially, just kind of from not being around people. Like, just the isolation was the main thing, because we're humans, we're social creatures, and whether if we like each other or not, we need each other and we need to be around each other, at least to just bounce ideas off each other and make sure we're all okay. But I would say the thing that I struggled with the most was definitely the isolation and just kind of keeping myself busy and not letting my mind become too idle, if that makes sense.
You have to mature really quickly. Because I was a little shit when I was a senior in high school. Like, in Florida, when you saw a bunch of people just partying and going out, I think high school me being a douchebag that I was, I would probably, I wouldn't be partying. I was only in high school, but still, I probably would not be, following the rules. I'd be like, it's fine. Who cares?
Right.
And depending on where you land on in the maturity scale, you probably had to follow all those guidelines and grow up.
Yeah. It was definitely strange because like, I want us to hang out with people that I know, people from class, teammates, stuff like that, and it's just kind of like, we don't know what's going on. Do we risk it? Do we not risk it? Just one of those things where it's just kind of, I don't know, just err on the side of safety.
So when you did you go right into your freshman year that fall of 2020?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you got to, like, what was school like then? Because were y'all still kind of virtual, or were you half? Or what was that like?
That was Zoom school. That wasn't real school. That was that's people waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning with like what we're doing right now, cameras turned off, just getting the credit for attendance. Multiple of my teammates and classmates, that was free reign. That was free reign for the good or the bad.
It's gonna be our doctors
that
and our
is,
lawyers.
you're gonna go to the ER and you'd be like, "Did you do Zoom school for your med school, or what year?"
Right.
I'll be like, "Were you in class at 2020?"
Right. Get a diamond tester for the diploma.
So, what was social life like when you got to campus that fall?
It was weird. Like, it was. People wanted to, hang out and do like the traditional stuff, but I think it was for like the first maybe month or so, it was different because it was only athletes and exceptions on campus. So campus was kind of dry for a little bit. And then I think it was around like September, beginning of October is when they let some of like the regular population come back on, but then they quickly sent everybody back on. Like, it was, you're here, gone. So it was, we made the most of it, if that made sense. Like, it was fun, but it was not the traditional freshman year.
That is just wild to think about, is like, we have these traditions that have been in place for 20, 30, 40 years of how you end high school, how you begin college, that summer in between and all that stuff. And like, this one particular class forever in time is like, ours just got blown to smithereens and everything was like
absolutely
straight into the ether.
Have you, because I know that like I see all these statistics about kids from, not just your class, but a lot of kids, and when I say kids, like high school, college, that have just like, they just stopped showing up. And so there's this whole epidemic where they're like, we have this missing population of kids that we don't know like where they went to. Have you experienced or heard about any of your friends that have gone through that?
In terms of what? Like,
like they just didn't show back up to school, or they were like gonna go to college, but they never showed up, or did people like follow through with it?
From my local high school, I know of a couple people that just kind of was had like a weird buffer year. But
Mhm.
for the most part, I think after, 1 or 2 years, they either enrolled in like community college or just a traditional 4 year.
That's
I
good.
know I know a lot of people were just kind of just taken aback by everything, and it was just kind of like, what are we doing? And I know a lot of people that just kind of struggle with their own personal, I guess, issues and demons that just was kind of like, I need time away from school to kind of like either figure out life or just kind of make sense of what the world is coming to. I mean, I know at that point in time, like everybody was like, is the world ending? Is this gonna be it? Like something straight out of
Unprecedented
a movie.
time.
Mm.
Right.
We were just trying to navigate them waters.
Navigate I can't even tell you how many times we said we were navigating these waters. Like we were sure navigating the whole ass ocean is what we were doing.
100%. Now, Braxton, moving on to like your dreams and aspirations and like what you want to do, like where do you see yourself in 10, 15, 20 years? What is it that you want to be doing?
That's a loaded question. I want to do a lot. Like throughout the pandemic, I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about people and a lot about like where my interests lie. Like naturally, I kind of see myself as a journalist that kind of wants to get the inside scope on a lot of different things. But then there's also this part of me that's, wants to continue with athletics, wants to, train people, wants to be a coach, want to help people fulfill their dreams and like aspirations when it comes to athletics. And then like I'm an artist. Like I compose music, play the guitar, the piano, sing and stuff like that. So any and everything, if that makes sense. But
No,
if I
yeah.
could, if I kind of
Well,
had
you're so
to,
young. The future is your oyster. Like you can really do anything.
This is the
yeah,
best time of your life.
yeah.
This is the best time of your life. Obviously, when you
Um,
grow older, there'll be amazing moments. But
There's
like
other great times,
there
but
are,
like
but
it's
not as good as college.
because
Right.
it also the possibilities truly are open because you have the capability to do any of those things and also the sort of unjadedness to believe that you can, because you can, by the way.
Mhm.
But as you get older, you start to believe less that you can. And so I
Because
think
of responsibilities.
yeah, it's just a thing. What happens with aging? It's crazy. But I'm so excited for you to take part in any of the things that you
Mhm.
want to do because
Mhm.
they're all doable.
yeah.
And I think what's really cool too about where you are in your life and where we are in society is that you can pick and choose what it is you want to be. If you want to be an journalist who covers athletics, but then also has a side career of being a social media singer and guitar player and teach that on the side, like you can do all of those things. But I think one of the biggest things that here's a little bit of our going into lessons we can impart on you from our lives and like where we've been is to just don't forget that idealism that you have, because sort of like what Holly said is that as time goes on and you get more responsibilities and you're like, man, I really would love to, like, one of my dreams, I always wanted to just sell everything, move to LA and see if I could be like an entertainment journalist or an entertainment host or host a talk show or something like that. But I was always like, but what? I don't have a place to live. Like, I don't. And it's like now I'm like, girl, I got bills. I got a husband. I got people that depend on me to do stuff. I can't just quit it and leave it. But it's like, if I really wanted to, I could, but you just sort of let life trap
Yeah.
you a little bit.
Mhm.
And so
That's what I'm
just
saying.
never forget that hope and that idealism that you truly can change the world in your facet of the world and wherever you are, but just never forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to hold on to my idealism as well as just like my spark for life for as long as I can and make sure that I can get the most out of everything in this world and in this life.
And
Absolutely.
what is this podcast that you are wanting to get off the ground at some point?
It was many working titles, but kind of one of the things me and my friends were kind of tossing back were Off the Meds podcast, just kind of like a spin on like the, mental health and all that stuff, just kind of giving people the platform, but also allowing people to kind of be themselves and tell their story. And, and the rare times that we would cut up, allow it to be, uncensored, like this show is,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
sit back and let loose.
And you can absolutely do that, and you should continue to do that. Well,
Mhm.
Braxton, if people want to send you some words of encouragement, or if you post your music anywhere, where can people find you on social media?
On Instagram at beware.3. That's my Instagram title and my hold. Or on Spotify, it's just the first 4 letters of my name, Brax, shortened. Spotify, and Apple Music, all platforms.
So awesome. Well, Braxton, thank you for taking some time out and chatting with us and letting us peek into what it's like for someone who was a part of the class of 2020, and what you all have gone through and what you're continuing to go through. And much respect for you for shooting your shot and saying, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to have a podcast today.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You'll never forget that, because the people that are in high positions are the people that were bold enough to seek out the help of people that were above them. So never forget that and keep doing it. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Okay. See you.
Bye.
I love that.
Mm.
I
That
love
is
the
so-
youths.
I know the
They're our
youths.
future.
Youths and the idealism. The youths.
I remember there was like one time when I was on my Peloton doing a ride, and it really hit me because I think it was like maybe 6 months into us being here in Charlotte, and I'm just continually going over like, did we make the right decision in moving here, and why was I really so like, we need to make this move happen, and am I happy, what am I doing? And then there was a moment where I was like, man, there's a part of myself that's gone that I'll never get back. Is that just wild idealism that I had? Like, I remember when people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I was like, I want to be a TV talk show host. I want to be a radio morning show host. I want to be an actor. I want to own a magazine. I want to own radio stations. And then I want to have like a media corporation.
Mm-hmm. What about now?
I don't want
I don't do
it.
nothing.
I don't want anything. I don't want to work.
Sit on
I
my couch.
I
I
want to do my job.
I don't want to go
I
home.
wanna go
What is-
home.
Kelvin said, what does Kelvin say?
I clock in, I do my job, and I go home.
That's right. That's me. That's what I want to do.
And I still want to, there's still a part of me that wants to do that. But then there's also a part of me that also, as you get older, you understand your limitations. And
Ooh, yes. Which is kind of sad in
Yes.
a way. But I think important.
but I
Mhm.
feel like as you're young, like you should never put those limitations. Actually, no, let me take that back. Let me tell you that. You should never put those limitations, but I think you have to know yourself.
It comes with age, with wisdom,
Right.
because you should try all of it
Right.
Yeah.
and then fail, spectacularly fail.
Right.
And those failures are lessons, and they help shape your understanding and knowledge of yourself.
100%. And I think as you get older, and this is why I was like, wait a minute, I don't ever want anyone to feel like you shouldn't do something if you're like, well, that's a limitation for me. So, because like what I've discovered is that the limitations that I do have, you surround yourself with people that can do those things. So, like, I know that I'm not a good business person. Like, I'm not a negotiator. I'm not let's look forward and like, here's the next big thing coming to radio.
I'm not going to also go back and forth and have like a nitty gritty, like, negotiation session,
Right.
bargaining,
Right.
dollars and cents, or what's earned and worth and things like that.
Like, I'm not that person, but I now know that I can hire people or surround myself with people that are experts in that. So that's why I want to amend that statement.
I think it's different. You didn't ever want to be that, did
Right.
you? Like,
No,
did you want to be a great business negotiator?
I wanted to be sort of an entrepreneur, because I feel like because of like my church and where I grew up in my church, is they talked a lot about being an entrepreneur and wanting to grow your business and do those sort of things. And so to me, I felt like that is what made you like an adult, is, like, that's why I wanted to have my own corporation and I wanted to make those decisions and be in a boardroom. But then like when you realize the specifics of doing that job, I'm like, I
Right.
actually don't want to do that. I want to be like the creative head behind it.
Right. And I do
Mhm.
feel like there's a difference between having passion and taking a shot at doing something, even if you know you might have limitations, as opposed to that's not even in my interest. So
Right.
why do I want to push in this direction where I may not be that strong?
Right.
I mean, there's nuance in all of it. There's
100%.
none of it is black and white. So,
but I think the big thing is just like not losing that spark, because
it's hard
I think
not to, though.
it is, but I think you have to remind yourself of it and then find that new spark. Because like that spark of me wanting to do all those things will never be me again. But my new spark is finally, after 4 fucking years, figuring out this goddamn podcast I want to do. That's my fucking spark that I need to get on. And like, but it's so easy as an adult because your life, just being an adult and working in your relationships and children, and you're tired and you just want to sit and like watch great television and escape
and
eat, you know,
go to bed and whatever you want to go to bed. Like, so listen,
ready for retirement.
I just want to. Yeah, it's fine.
I just want to.
I just remember I visited my college campus, and I'm going again this fall. I'm very excited. We are a group of friends and I are going for our 20th college reunion.
College.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah, thank you. College.
Got
it.
College.
But the last time I was there, probably about 7 years ago or so, I stepped out and I was like, and it looked totally different because everything keeps changing and growing and everything. But I was just like, oh my God, it feels like possibility and inspiration and this optimism just being there. That's what it felt like. And I never feel that anymore. But it's just different when you are young because there aren't like you don't even know what all is involved in all the things that you want to do yet. So I think that's probably the good thing, is that there's a naivete about it. Like you can be naive and think that, oh, well, I'm just going to do this. And then you do it. So I think what adults we need to remember is that we really can do anything if you really want to. That's what we should have taken with us from our youth and our childhood and our teen and early 20s, is that everything really is possible. We're just more tired now, and it takes a little, and there's more fear attached to it because we have more to lose.
Risk.
But it's truly possible that you can do anything. I had this weird realization. I'm trying to think. So I have some dealings, not me personally, but close to me, some dealings with a very high-powered lawyer. Okay. Not to give specifics or anything, but I have dealings with him. And, over a couple of years, like in my mind, I'm like, this man is a great lawyer. That's a job I could never do. And I just don't even know how people are so smart that they could do that job. Well, relatively recently, it came to my attention that he's not that great at his job, this particular lawyer. Not that I'm not saying anything about his character, his person, but like kind of doesn't care as much as you would hope that a lawyer might care.
Right.
Not as detail oriented, really quick to pass a job off to like some underling that's not going to do what he might have done if he probably could have put all his mind power behind it, or like sends emails that have things that aren't spelled right, or doesn't follow up with phone calls if they say they will. And it really, like, I am 42 years old and it still shocks me the amount of people that I think are for real adults, like grown-ups that I think are smart, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I think it's mostly everybody at this point, you guys.
100%.
Like, I think I might be smarter than mostly everybody.
Well, and I
know that there are really smart people out there, but everyone that I thought was really smart is not that good.
But here's the thing.
Crazy.
They're faking it.
I think that what we thought was smart is what we thought of from TV shows. And that's just not how people are, because there's only so much people can hold in their life. And you can't be good at everything. Because I find that, like, if I'm on a good streak here at the show and like we have some great ideas happening and we're at events and we're like doing the damn thing and I'm responding to Instagram messages and I'm doing this and we're something else is falling apart. That means I forgot to pay a bill. That means I forgot to call my mom back several times. Nobody is good at everything all the time.
Has it all together.
Nobody.
They really don't. And people really don't care very much. I mean, there are obviously people in all walks of life who care a lot about other people, but typically it's not as much as you think it is. I feel like I care a lot, and I feel like I'm failing a lot at caring all the time, but I'm like, a lot of people don't care that much.
Mhm.
So it's just, the realization is, holy shit, you can really do anything. Anything. It's wild.
Were you about to say, Kelvin?
Just going back to the point about how like nobody really knows everything, even a smart person. And my fiance had brought up this question to one of our friends who's studying neurology to be a neurosurgeon. And he had asked him, he was like, hey, like, do doctors sometimes have to Google stuff to give you the stuff that they need? And he's like, absolutely. There's no such thing as a doctor knowing absolutely every remedy to everything. Of course, repeat cases happen, so
Right.
they'll know how to take care of it.
Experience comes
Experience.
Right.
But yeah, for certain things, doctors sometimes do have to Google things. So I thought that was really funny. But it's true. It's true what you're saying.
So true. It's so true. Like, don't ever that's where Miguel's limiting conversation comes in. Like, where you shouldn't limit yourself because you think all these other people know so much more than you do. I mean, if you wanted to just learn about it and do it, you could.
Right. Yeah.
You could. You could.
Well, thanks to Braxton for coming on and sharing his story. It's always just so fascinating to hear what life is like for, you know, people his age and how different it is, but also the same at the same time for all of us.
Yeah.
Producer Kelvin, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at Kelvin Live. And I haven't played video games in a hot minute. But I've been jonesing the past couple of days. So at Bussy Killer on PlayStation Network, the only thing that's missing is you. So it's BSSY Killer.
The Bussy's back, y'all.
I know that's right.
Holly, what's your
Pride Month.
Yes.
So, Radio Holly
Mhm.
on Instagram, X, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, all that good stuff.
At Miguel Fuller, you can find me on all those places. We will see you back here on Friday. Bye.